Major League Baseball has the Home Run Derby. The NBA has the Slam Dunk Contest. The NFL has what? What is the marquee event of the NFL's All-Star Weekend? Well, it's supposed to be the Pro Bowl game, but last year's game tells you everything you need to know about that.
Fake. There's Cousin. Kyle Juszczyk, the fullback. In all sorts of trouble. Loads up. A why not shot. Final 10 seconds of this first Pro Bowl quarter. Mahomes, little sidearm, and he's intercepted.
Well, he's going to be a phenomenal player.
They'll flip it to Stephon Diggs.
Listen, an NFL All-Star game is hard. Back when the game started, players wanted to make a point that their conference was better and competed pretty hard. But since the turn of the century, the game has been on the decline. Players understandably don't want to risk their careers for a meaningless game, and the game just isn't fun to watch for fans. So after years of tanking ratings and player criticism, the Pro Bowl is actually getting a complete makeover. Dubbed the Pro Bowl games, the NFL will replace its traditional 11-on-11 game with 2 days of skills challenges and a marquee flag football game. Hopefully this is something more engaging for the players and more entertaining for the fans. But how did we get to having the best players in the world playing flag football? Well, the history of the Pro Bowl is fascinating, and I'm going to tell you about it. So let's dive into the curious evolution of the NFL All-Star Game. The origins of the NFL All-Star Game can be traced back to 1938. The game was established by Washington Redskins, or now known as Commanders, owner George Marshall, Los Angeles Times sports editor Bill Henry, and promoter Tom Gallery. The game was sponsored by the LA Times, not the NFL, and was branded as a charity game which was popular for postseason games at the time. So in January of 1939, the first NFL All-Star Game was played at Wrigley Field in Los Angeles, California. The format of the game was much different than the one we are familiar with today though. It wasn't just a matchup between two All-Star teams. It was a game between a team of All-Stars voted on by fans versus the reigning league champions, which in 1939 were the New York Giants. So after a grueling season to win the championship, the team is further rewarded by playing a group of the best players in the league. That takes dedication to the next level. To make the story even better, the Giants actually won the game 13-10 on an 18-yard field goal to secure the ultimate bragging rights that season. The All-Star Game followed this same format of league champions playing a collection of All-Stars for 4 more years following 1939. The games got solid attendance and the players took it really seriously too. Before the December 1942 game, a group of players for the league champions Washington Redskins told the New York Daily Press that, quote, "We were determined to win this game to prove our victory over the Bears was no fluke. We wanted to win this one as much as the playoffs," unquote. Unfortunately, they came up 3 points short of that goal, losing 14-17 to the All-Stars, but that's just a glimpse of the level of intensity that these players were playing with. During this 5-year stretch, the league champions were 4-1 against the All-Stars, cementing themselves as true world champions. The game was discontinued after 1942 because of travel restrictions put in place during World War II. Fast forward almost a decade later, and the All-Star Game made its triumphant return on January 14, 1951, in front of 53,000 people in Los Angeles. Commissioner Burt Bell thought an All-Star Game would be a great way to take advantage of the game's growing popularity and publicize the league and its players. The game was still played the week after the Super Bowl, but featured some new changes. The game was renamed what we know it as now, the Pro Bowl, and began using the format we know today with teams of All-Stars from opposing conferences. The NFL started using this conference format to avoid confusion with the Chicago College All-Star Game. And side note, this College All-Star Game that the NFL wanted to avoid conflict with pitted college All-Stars against the Super Bowl champs. This game was played for over 40 years and went just as you would expect it to go, with pro athletes playing college students. The game was discontinued in 1976 due to health concerns, but I'll give the College All-Stars some credit. They did win 9 matchups over the history of the game, so well done. Now back to the original story. In this first ever Pro Bowl, the American Conference narrowly beat the National Conference 28-27 to take home bragging rights. From 1952 to 1972, the game continued to be played in LA, and in 1973 to 1980, the game began moving to different stadiums across the country. TV was introduced in 1953, so people all over the country outside of just where the game was being played could watch the game. Some notable games from this era include the 1963 Pro Bowl, where Pittsburgh Steeler and Eastern All-Star Gene Lipscomb blocked 2 field goals, and forced 6 fumbles in a 30-20 victory over the West All-Stars. In the 1974 Pro Bowl, where Garo Yepremian made 5 field goals to lead the AFC to a 15-13 victory. This is still the most field goals ever made in Pro Bowl history. And fun fact, this was actually the last game to have the goalposts on the goal line before moving them back to the end line in fall of 1974. Now with the Pro Bowl, the NFL was always looking for ways to make it more interesting for the players in order to produce a better product for the broadcast. In 1980, a perfect opportunity arose to really switch things up by hosting the Pro Bowl almost 2,000 miles from the mainland US, in Hawaii. For the state of Hawaii, what better way to increase tourism and notoriety than hosting the biggest sports league in the country? And for the NFL, what player and their family wouldn't want to enjoy a week in paradise? It was a match made in heaven. The 1980 event was a smashing success. The state of Hawaii rolled out the red carpet for the players, and the people of Honolulu were ecstatic to have pro football on their soil. A sellout crowd of 48,000 people soaked up all the action. The energy in the stadium was electric, as Steelers QB Terry Bradshaw said, quote, "The crowd was great. They were excited by the big plays no matter who made them," unquote. The NFL was so pleased they immediately reached out to the state to request the game be played there the following year. This started a partnership that would last for 30 years. Over this time, Hawaii and the Pro Bowl became synonymous as one. Every game was a sellout on the island, and the players truly saw it as a worthy reward to conclude the season. On the field, Hawaii was home to some memorable Pro Bowls during its 30-year tenure. The 1993 Pro Bowl featured a little bit of everything: a pick six, a blocked field goal scoop and score, a game-tying drive led by Steve Young, and the first ever Pro Bowl overtime. The AFC would kick a walk-off field goal to win 23-20. In the 1995 Pro Bowl, Marshall Faulk went ballistic, becoming the first rookie to ever win Pro Bowl MVP, rushing for 180 yards on 13 carries, a record that still remains today. And who can forget Sean Taylor's iconic hit on Bills punter Brian Moorman, who was trying to get a first down on a fake punt. The sound of the hit tells it all.
Brian Moorman is going to fake it on the run, and he's going to come up short. Sean Taylor.
During this time, the league was also invested in various events during this week that pitted players against each other in football and non-football related challenges. I couldn't find exactly when they started, but the NFL tried a little bit of everything, with beach volleyball, canoe racing, a lineman challenge, best hands competition, strongest man competition, and probably the most notable one, the QB challenge, which ran from 1990 to 2007. Basically any skill done in sports, the Pro Bowl has probably had a challenge tied to it. While things were going well in Hawaii, the NFL is a business and always looking at new ways to revamp the Pro Bowl, especially as TV ratings started to dip at the turn of the century. The island would have to fend off bids from other cities like Orlando, Florida to host the game and pay a hefty price each year, such as $19.5 million to host the game from 2002 to 2005. Another side note, but doing my research, I found some articles asking, was the Pro Bowl a good economic investment for Hawaii? Looking at the numbers from a 2004 deal, the Hawaii State Tourism Authority would use about $4 million in taxpayers' funds to pay for rights to host the Pro Bowl. The NFL would take home the revenue from ticket sales and media rights, while the state would benefit from the massive injection in tourism. That's how it's supposed to work in theory, but in reality, economists in a 2015 study found that the Pro Bowl had zero net increase in tourism-generated money. The study talks about how the Pro Bowl didn't attract as many visitors as the Hawaiian Tourism Authority made it seem, or how huge events like the Pro Bowl only displaced regular economic activity rather than multiply it. In 2011, Hawaii Governor Neil Abercrombie even spoke out against the Pro Bowl.
I mean, you can't do things like give $4 million to a $9 billion football industry and not give any money to children.
It's an interesting business case study to say the least. But back to the story. In 2010, the NFL threw another curveball at the Pro Bowl and moved the game to Sun Life Stadium in Miami, Florida. Sun Life was where the Super Bowl was going to be held that year, and the league moved the game up to the weekend before the Super Bowl for the first time ever. This meant players from the teams in the Super Bowl would not be able to participate in the Pro Bowl. The changes were met with a lot of discussion. The league said their rationale was to heighten buzz around the game by tying it in with the Super Bowl, while many players and coaches spoke out against the change. Many highlighted that Hawaii felt like a vacation while Florida didn't, and some were concerned about where future Pro Bowls would be held if the event kept following the Super Bowl, because not all Super Bowl locations were in tropical locations. To the league's credit, the Miami game was a success, with great attendance and a spike in TV ratings. In 2011, the game returned to Hawaii, but remained slotted the weekend before the Super Bowl. Again, ratings rose and a sellout crowd watched the NFC beat the AFC 55-41. In 2012, the people of Hawaii and millions across the country watched the AFC score a Pro Bowl single-team scoring record to beat the NFC 59-41. However, the criticism surrounding the Pro Bowl wasn't about ratings, it was about on-field play. A sports writer for NFL.com said, quote, "Players love the trip to Hawaii, but don't care for the game itself," unquote. Taking things even further, NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell said the league office was questioning whether the Pro Bowl was worth it or not.
I really thought the quality of the game last year was way below standards. And if we're going to play like that, we should just eliminate the game.
In 2014, Roger Goodell was all in on canceling the Pro Bowl, until intervention from the NFL Players Association convinced him otherwise. Since then, the league has really tried a myriad of things to garner more excitement from the players and the fans. In 2014, the game scrapped the AFC-NFC model and had teams selected by captains in a fantasy draft. Additionally, the league started implementing modified rules to help players and fan appeal. Kickoffs were eliminated, and the 2-minute warning was added to all 4 quarters to encourage quick-paced 2-minute drills. They used this fantasy draft model for 3 years with NFL legends such as Deion Sanders and Jerry Rice serving as team captains. In 2017, the league considered hosting the game in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, which would have been the first time the Pro Bowl was held outside of the US. Sydney, Australia even put in a bid as well. The league ultimately went with the newly renovated Camping World Stadium in Orlando, Florida, and returned to the AFC vs NFC model. 2017 also saw the return of skills competitions from the early 2000s. Now in 2022, the NFL has made its most drastic change yet, taking the tackle football game away. Now called the Pro Bowl games, the league will broadcast the skills challenges and have the players compete in a flag football game. Honestly, it's a smart move because the one thing I haven't talked about are injuries. Football is a physical sport and you have to play 100% or not at all. There is way too much money for the players and the franchises to jeopardize it in an all-star game. Listen to this. In 2007, New Orleans Saints quarterback Drew Brees dislocated his non-throwing elbow in the Pro Bowl. This could have jeopardized the career of a future Hall of Famer. In 2016, Cincinnati Bengals tight end Tyler Eifert tore a ligament in his foot that required surgery. He missed the first 4 weeks of the upcoming season due to that injury. The worst of all is former Patriots running back Robert Edwards. Edwards had a stellar rookie season in 1998, accounting for almost 1,400 yards and scoring 12 touchdowns.
Patriots going up top. Led to Robert Edwards, the running back out of the backfield 26-yard line. They take it.
He didn't make the Pro Bowl, but he was invited to Hawaii to participate in a rookie-only beach flag football game. During a play, he blew out his knee and almost needed an amputation. He missed the entire 1999 to 2001 season before playing as a backup in Miami in 2002. While 2002 would be Edwards' last year in the NFL, thankfully he went on to have a solid career in the Canadian Football League. He rushed for over 3,000 yards and became a 2-time Eastern Division All-Star in 2005 and 2006. While that injury wasn't a career ender, it does make one wonder what Robert Edwards' career would have been like in the NFL without that All-Star week. So me personally, I'm excited that the NFL is moving away from the traditional Pro Bowl game. As someone who has played football and understands the risk of playing football, even if it's just half speed, this is much better. Hopefully the players will make the flag football game fun and someone can still get mossed. So while I'm not guaranteeing I'll tune in because it is kind of a meaningless game, I will be sure to check out the highlights just to see what's happening. So thank you so much for making it to the end of the video or podcast. Be sure to like, follow, subscribe, all the above, and leave a comment down below if you like the new Pro Bowl model or you wish they went back to the game. See you next time.